Kia ora, and welcome to another tutorial from dacanane.com. In today's tutorial, we're going to be looking at Google Slides. Now, most of you probably know how to use Google Slides, but did you know that you can use Google Slides as a desktop publishing tool, and we don't have to stick with this 16:9 format? So there's a lot to get through, and let's get right into it. I've opened up a new Google slide. As you can see, it's called Untitled Presentation. And when we're presented with this, we look at this format generally. What we can do here is we can see all the tools that we've got available to us, and the slide always opens up in this landscape format, 16:9 to fit a modern computer. But we can also use Google Slides to make an A4 poster, for example. So let's start with that. Let's click on File, come down to Page Setup, and down here we can click on Widescreen, which is the default. What we're going to come down to here is Custom. I'm going to click on Custom, and it's in centimeters. I've changed my ruler to centimeters, and I've got another tutorial that shows you how to do that. So if you know what the size is of an A4 sheet is in centimeters, the width is 21 centimeters by 29.7, and click Apply. Now, it's very important that you do this, this formatting before you put any content into the page. I'll show you what happens if we don't do that in the next scene. So what I'm going to do here is, first of all, I'm going to click on Layout and turn it blank to get rid of the rubbish. And so now we've got a clean piece of white A4 paper for us to start using our creative skills to make an eye-catching poster. But let's first of all show you what happens if you decide to make this into a poster after you've started working. So here we are. I'm working on a new document here, and it's in the standard slide format, and I suddenly remember that I want to put this into A4. Let's see what happens if I decide to do that after I've started. So let's come back to here, remind ourselves, come down to Page Setup, change this down to Custom, change that to 21 because that's what we want it to be, and 29.7. And what Google's going to do is it's going to stretch everything to that proportion. Watch what happens when I click Apply. And now it's made my document a complete mess. It's put everything where I wanted it to be. It's completely messed it up. So always remember to set the page setup before you start creating any content. Now that my document is the scale and size that I want it to be, and we know it's going to be printed out or it's going to be shared somewhere else as a PDF, I want to use color. So first of all I'm going to do is click on the background here, click on background, and I'm going to come to here. I'm going to choose a color. You can choose I'm going to switch to gradient, and I'm going to click on custom. And first thing to look at is the angle tool. You can see here that at the moment the angle is 90 degrees and it goes from light at the top to dark at the bottom. And if I change this, you can see where it goes. I like mine to be 270. In other words, I like it to flip. So I want light at the bottom and dark at the top. And here is the gradient range at the moment. Light on the left, dark on the right. And I'm selected on the light at the moment. So I'm just going to click on here. I'm going to click on custom again so I can use the color picker. I'm going to slide this. Let's make this, I'm going to go blue to blue. So I'm going to make a nice kind of turquoisey tealy blue, click OK. And then I'm going to click on this one over here, click on the color dot again, click on custom again, use the slider, then use the picker, and I want to go darker over here, click OK, click OK, click done. And I've now got a graded background. Probably make that a bit stronger actually. But now I've got a nice background that is going to be the basis for my presentation. Now let's look at titles. So we can insert text from a text box if we wanted to, but that's pretty boring. We're going to come up to insert here, and we're going to come to word art. I'm going to click on word art, and I'm just going to use the word title. You can put whatever you want in here. I'm just going to click enter. And the word title comes up, and that's in Arial. Let's see, we can make some different choices here. I'm going to click on Bungee. There we go. That's a nice bold title that I've got going on here. And now we can do some formatting with this. So all the usual stuff, we can click on fill. So let's just make it red. But what we could also do on here, you can note, we can do gradient. So let's do a red center gradient. That might work. let's add an outline. Let's make it white and let's make it thicker. So let's make it even thicker than that. 8 point. There's our title. All very exciting and nice, much nicer than just an ordinary plain text. So to remind ourselves, that's insert word art and then choose the font that you want. But there's more that we can do. So I'm going to right click on this now and come down to format options, and that will open on the right hand side here some other tools. First one we can look at is drop shadow. So I'm just going to click that on. Let's make the shadow a bit of a nicer color than that. Let's make it sort of bluey grey color. Now it's hard to see here, so let's just click on distance so you can see it. There it is there. There's the angle, which way to go around. You can move it around. The blur radius, how blurry do you want it to be? And so you can slide these things around and see how well you want them to go. Let's make that a bit darker, just so you can see it this time. There it is. So we can now make our title from word art. We can now add content to it. Now this feature here can work for any object. So if we added a shape in here, let's just add a rounded rectangle like this, and it's filled it with what I've remembered. Let's just make it solid color, just differentiate it. Let's give it a 3 pixel grey border. Let's make it white. And you can see that we've got the option to turn that on or off. So that works really well. So it works for any object you put into Google Slides. But if we click on this again, just close this, we can make a reflection as well. So we click on this, again, we can make a reflection. We can see how transparent it is. So just do that. How big it is, that sets the title here. So we can now create an object. So we can use our visual literacy to make it look like there's some distance going on here. So using our imagination, using our creativity, and using the tools built into Google Slides, we can start making documents that are much more visually interesting. So we've got a title, it's got a drop shadow, it's got a reflection. Let's see what we can do with some of the shapes as well. So we can use layers, we can put things on top of other things to make things more interesting. So let's have a look at this. Let's look at shapes. Down here, there's a whole bunch of things that we can look at in here. Let's have a look at some of the stars here. Let's have a look at this. Let's create a 7-sided star like this. It looks pretty interesting. You can see in here we can change these around. So let's just do the border thing again, make a nice border so we can see it. Let's make it just solid color. Let's make this one yellow. That looks pretty good. And let's give it a drop shadow. That gives it some, let's look at the drop shadows down here. Let's just make the distance a little bit more. There we go, that looks good. But we can start layering things. So I'm going to copy this, pasted that, and I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to make it red, and I'm going to put it on top. And I'm going to make it a bit smaller. And we can start aligning these. So let's highlight both of these. Let's come to a line in the center and a line middle, and now I've got those two on top like that. So let's add another circle on top of this. We could put a circle in here like this, center that up, and so we can start making our shapes together. And we can use this layering function to make some more interesting objects to actually get people's attention. So let's have a look at another thing we can do. Let's just delete both of those. Let's come back to shapes, come into callouts into here, and there's some kind of more random shapes. Let's just click on this one here. And again, let's fill that with some color. I'm just gonna make this orange this time. I'm gonna make the outside yellow. I'm gonna make the thicker line. And we can use that to grab somebody's attention, and we can layer text on top of that. Let's put the title over the top. titles in the background. So let's just use some of these other tools again. Let's just rotate this slightly. We want the title to be eye-catching. I'm just going to stretch this and start playing around with it. But the title is still in the background, and I want the title to be on top. And so how do we swap things around? Well, using the Control or Command key plus the up arrow will bring it, will allow us to, whatever we've clicked on, to move down through the layers. So let's do that. Let's click on the object here, the start in the background, and I'm going to click on Command or Control and put the up arrow on this, and it goes up, and the down arrow and it goes down. So now our title is looking a lot more interesting because we've given it something to sit on, and we've layered it. We've used our layer knowledge to make this much more interesting. What we're going to look at now is some images. So I'm going to click on Insert, and I'm going to insert an image, and I'm going to upload from my computer, and I'm going to choose this picture of a bird here. Let's click Open. And, you know, we can do all kinds of things with this. We can scale it around and do all kinds of things. But really, what I don't want to end up with is lots of square pictures. If I look at this picture, it's kind of oval shaped. So what I can do is I can double click on this picture until I get a black border, and I can crop it, and I'm going to crop the picture like this. And the interest really is in the eye. So I'm going to like this. So that's the size of the picture I want. So I don't have to have the whole picture. Click return. That's my new picture, but it's still in a square shape. So what can we do? If we come up to the crop function up here and click on the drop down image, there's the mask option. If we click on mask and shapes, I can mask it into a circle, and the circle will be fitted inside the boundaries of my rectangular shape there. Let's see what happens. Click on this. And now I've cropped my picture. Now I would think that's a bit more of an interesting photograph to put in a poster than a just a simply square one. You can also see how to do a remove.bg picture, and you'll see why I like to use that. Let's have insert image, upload from the computer, and it will be in this one here. I've had the background removed. Click open, and a removed background image gives you much more freedom to move and use your layers to move a picture around without it being in a square. So here's the direct comparison. Here's on the left hand side, an image that has not had the background removed, but you've used the crop feature and mask feature to actually make the picture itself and the frame of the picture much more interesting. But using the remove BG option allows you to be, allows your object to sit over other objects underneath it to make things much more visually interesting. So the choice is yours. Finally, once your masterpiece has been created, your desktop publishing masterpiece has been created, what you can do is obviously save it to Google Drive, but you need to export it to a format that you can print it in. So for example, let's click on File over here. What we can do now is choose to download it, and we can download it as a PDF. And if it's a PDF, it can be printed off, and because it's an A4, it will fit perfectly onto your A4 document. So click on the download as a PDF and then save it to your file, and away you go. So those are some quick little tips to help you make your presentations much more interesting, to think of Google Slides as a desktop publishing tool, and using some tips and tricks to make them much more visually interesting. Thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate your support. Until the next time, ka kite anō.